Welcome to Soul Talk English, my friends. Today I want to take you on a thrilling path that may reshape how you see your life, your money, and your idea of success forever. What I share today is more than a tale. It is a lesson that has changed the lives of millions, including my own. We are talking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a book that teaches true financial freedom. Imagine this for a moment. You are a young boy or girl watching the adults around you. One voice says, study hard, get a safe job, and save what you earn. Another says, learn money itself. Make it work for you and build wealth with purpose. That voice insists. Two ideas, totally opposite. Which one would you follow? This was the childhood of Robert Kiyosaki, the man behind Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He had two father figures in his world, two men who taught in different ways. He called them his poor dad and his rich dad. Poor Dad was his real father, highly educated with a respectable job. He worked as a teacher and believed success came from hard work and grades. But even with his education, Poor Dad struggled. He lived paycheck to paycheck, stressed about bills, and believed talking about money was rude or unnecessary. That was his mindset. Rich Dad, however, had little formal education. No fancy degree, no big job, but knowledge far more powerful. Rich Dad owned businesses, made bold investments, and believed financial education mattered more than formal schooling. He often said, you should not work for money. Make it work for you. Imagine Robert standing between these two men. Both loved him, both advised him, yet their guidance pointed in opposite directions. Poor Dad said, find a stable job for safety. Rich Dad said, build businesses that give others jobs. Poor Dad said, money is the root of every evil. Rich Dad answered, the lack of money creates far greater trouble. Robert felt confused at first. He respected them both, but noticed something striking. Poor Dad, though smart, was always stressed about cash. Rich Dad, with fewer degrees, lived relaxed and confident about tomorrow. One day Robert asked, why are you so calm about money? Rich Dad smiled and said, because I know how it works. Most people don't. They spend their lives working for money blindly. That single sentence changed Robert's direction. It planted a seed of deep curiosity in his heart. He decided to learn from Rich Dad, discover his methods, and follow his wisdom closely. Now stop for a moment and think, isn't this what happens to many of us too? We grow up hearing, go to school, get a good job, save money for later, yet no one teaches us how money really works. Your beliefs about money shape your future. If you see money as fearful or wrong, you will always struggle. If you treat money as a tool you can guide and grow, doors begin to open everywhere. If two paths stood ahead of you, one toward struggle and one toward freedom, wouldn't you want to know which to choose? That is exactly what Robert wanted to discover. Rich Dad continued teaching Robert, and each talk opened his eyes wider. One day, Rich Dad said something Robert never forgot. The rich don't work for money. Robert felt confused instantly. What does that even mean? He thought, isn't money the reason people work? Rich Dad smiled gently and replied, no, Robert. The poor and middle class work for money. The rich direct money. He explained how people get trapped in a cycle he called a rat race. When you're a child, you're told to study hard so you can earn a good job someday, he began explaining. When you finally get that job, you work hard for your paycheck. Then you buy a house, a car, and other things that come with endless bills, taxes, loans, and responsibilities. So you work even harder to pay them. And harder. And harder. It doesn't stop. People believe this is security, but they are actually working for their boss, the bank, and the government. Imagine someone named John. He gets $3,000 a month. When he earns $4,000, what does he do? He buys a bigger house, a nicer car, or the latest phone. Suddenly expenses rise again. Instead of saving or investing, he keeps spending. Now, he must work even harder just to survive. This endless cycle keeps him trapped completely. Robert realized this with his poor dad. Rich Dad then asked him, "Do you know what financial freedom means?" Robert shook his head. Rich Dad explained it clearly. Financial freedom means your investments cover your expenses. When you reach that point, you don't have to work unless you choose to. Your money works on your behalf. He added, "A big salary doesn't make you wealthy if expenses are bigger." He taught Robert the difference between assets and liabilities. An asset puts money in your pocket, even when you're not working. A liability takes money out of your pocket constantly. Case 1. A young man buys a car with $10,000. The fuel, repairs, and insurance cost him more over time. The car loses value yearly. That is a liability draining his pocket. Case 2. Another man uses $10,000 to buy land. He rents it for $200 monthly. The land increases in value, and the rent keeps coming. That is an asset adding money to his life. Robert was amazed. He saw how many people mistake liabilities for assets. A house, a car, or fancy items may look like wealth, but they don't produce income. They quietly drain money daily. Rich Dad explained, the rich buy assets first. They invest in things that earn money for them. Businesses, real estate, stocks, even education to upgrade their skills and value. These assets create passive income. Once they have enough income flowing in, they can buy luxuries without any stress. Robert understood. It wasn't about looking rich. It was about growth. Rich Dad gave him another picture. Imagine two families. Both earn $5,000 monthly. Family A spends all of it on rent, food, and small pleasures. At the end of the month, nothing remains. Family B spends $4,000 and invests $1,000 in stocks. Over time, their investments grow and bring $500 every month. Eventually, that income pays for their needs fully. Family B becomes financially free. Family A stays trapped in the same cycle. Robert saw clearly it wasn't about how much you make, but how well you manage what you earn. Rich Dad told him, "Most people say I can't afford it, but the rich ask, 'How can I afford it?'" He explained, "Saying I can't shut your mind down. Asking how opens it to solutions." He told Robert to practice this. When you want something you think you can't afford, write 3 ways to make it possible. Maybe reducing expenses or learning a skill to earn more. This exercise trains your mind to think like wealth builders. Robert still feared investing. He asked, "What if I lose money?" Rich Dad smiled again and said, "That's the difference. The poor fear losing money, so they never try. The rich know failure is part of learning. If you make mistakes, you don't quit. You learn again and keep moving forward." Rich Dad gave Robert a simple plan for building wealth even with little money. 1. Track your spending. Write every expense for a month and remove what isn't needed. 2. Start small. Begin with tiny investments like savings or small shares. 3. Keep learning. Books, mentors, seminars, all build knowledge. 4. Buy assets before luxuries. 5. Reinvest profits. Don't spend the income you earn from investments. Put it back to make it grow faster. Robert followed this and noticed change in his thinking. He no longer saw money as something to spend quickly. He saw it as a tool that could build more money. He started seeking new chances to invest, and his mind slowly shifted from fear to growth. His journey changed again when Rich Dad said, "To become wealthy, control your emotions first." Robert felt puzzled. He asked, "What do feelings have to do with money?" Rich Dad softly replied, "Everything. Most people let fear and greed lead their decisions. These 2 feelings keep them stuck." He added, "Fear is what keeps people in jobs they don't even like. They fear missing bills. They fear uncertainty. They fear trying. So they choose a paycheck instead of building wealth. This fear locks them in the same cycle forever. Imagine someone dreaming of starting a business but never trying. Why? They fear losing money or being judged. Fear becomes their prison, so they stay where they are. Rich Dad said, "The rich feel fear too, but they don't surrender to it. They accept it as natural. Then they act anyway. That is what separates courage from comfort." He continued, "Greed also traps people. They think a bigger car, a bigger house, or the newest phone will make them happy. But these things only raise their bills and stress. Real happiness comes from freedom. Freedom to choose your time, your work, your life. And that freedom comes from building assets, not collecting things you don't need." Rich Dad told Robert, "If you want to control emotions, gain knowledge. Most people fear money because they don't understand it. They fear investing. They fear taxes. They fear growth. They pay too much because they don't know the rules. They stay poor because they never learn." He encouraged Robert to understand investments, taxes, and how markets truly work. "The more you know, the less afraid you will be," he said. "Knowledge gives you power over fear." Then he added, "Stop thinking like a buyer. Think like an investor instead." He said, "Imagine you earn $1,000. A consumer spends it on clothes, food, or gadgets. An investor asks, how can this $1,000 create more money for me?" That single question changes everything. Investors might buy small shares, start a tiny business, or take a course that adds new skills. Their money grows. A consumer's money disappears. That is the difference in mindset. Rich Dad taught Robert to notice opportunities others ignore. He said, "People stay too busy working or spending. They don't see the chances right in front of them." He gave Robert a challenge. When you walk down a street, don't just look at shops. Ask yourself, how could I own one? What would make this business stronger? Think like an owner. Train your mind to see potential, not just products. Robert practiced this daily. Soon he noticed cafes for sale, old homes that could be rented, and ideas that could become businesses. But as Robert grew, people around him doubted him. Some said, "You're too young to invest." Others said, "This is too risky." Even poor Dad said he should focus on a secure job. Rich Dad told him, "People criticize what they don't understand. Their words reflect their fears, not yours. If you listen to them, you will live their lives, not your own. So stay focused. Surround yourself with people who believe in growth." He also told Robert, "You don't need to start big. Small wins give confidence. They prepare you for bigger steps." He shared the story of a young lady who had only $50 but wanted to invest. She bought small shares instead of waiting. Over time, her money grew, and she gained the courage to invest more. "Success is built slowly," Rich Dad said. "Each small step brings you closer to freedom." He taught Robert how habits shape wealth. Your daily actions decide your future. If you invest a little monthly, it grows. If you spend everything, you stay stuck. He told Robert to pay himself first, even before bills, so his money always grew. He said, "Pay yourself first even when it feels impossible." This habit forces you to become creative with the rest of your money. It builds the discipline needed to grow real wealth. Rich Dad warned Robert about a common trap: impatience. Most people quit because they don't see quick results. They want overnight success. Wealth never works that way. When you plant a seed, nothing shows at first. You water it, protect it, and wait. With time, it becomes a strong tree that gives fruit for years. Money follows the same rule. Remember, money is a tool, not the goal. The true goal is freedom. The freedom to choose your path, your work, your time, and the people you spend it with. That is real richness. Robert left that lesson more inspired than ever. He wanted to break the rat race, build assets, and create the future he had always imagined for himself with courage. Later, Rich Dad said, "You are ready for the biggest truth. Wealth isn't about luck or talent. It comes from your mindset, your discipline, and your actions." Robert listened closely. "Many dream of wealth," he said, "but few take action. They wait for perfect timing, perfect chances, perfect ideas. The truth is, there is no perfect time. The right time is now. He gave an example. Two friends say they want to invest. One waits to earn more. The other saves just $10 weekly. 10 years later, the second has wealth. The first is still waiting. Opportunities are everywhere. Rich Dad continued, only those who act get results. Don't wait to be ready. Begin with what you have. Use what you know. Take the smallest step. He taught Robert that failure isn't the opposite of success. It is part of the path. Every successful person has failed many times. No one wins without learning through mistakes. He shared a story about a man who started 5 businesses, and each one failed. People mocked him and called him foolish. But he didn't quit. On his 6th try, he built a huge success. Rich Dad asked, would he have reached that success if he stopped after the first failure? The answer was clear. Riches grow from persistence, not from perfect beginnings. He also taught Robert the power of self-discipline. It's easy to spend money, but discipline is needed to save and invest it. Always pay yourself first, no matter what. Even if you have bills, set money aside before spending. This forces you to think smarter and live wiser. It trains your mind to handle wealth responsibly and confidently. Rich Dad noticed many people let doubt block their dreams. Your thoughts shape your reality. If you focus on fear, you'll find reasons to fail. If you focus on dreams, you'll succeed. As their lessons near the end, Rich Dad shared surprising truth. The richest people are those who give back. Robert asked, how does giving make anyone richer? Rich Dad explained, when you help others, you create value. Mentoring, sharing knowledge, supporting good causes. Giving multiplies your success and brings powerful connections. He told a story about a wealthy man who created a scholarship fund for poor students. His kindness changed many lives. It also brought him joy and opened doors to new partnerships. Rich Dad added, never stop learning. The moment you stop growing. These words stayed with Robert forever and shaped his future choices with clarity and purpose. Years later, Robert looked back and realized Rich Dad had changed his life. He gained wealth, freedom, confidence, and the ability to help others, all because he learned how money works. Robert shared a powerful truth. No matter where you begin, you can change your future. It doesn't matter if you start with nothing. What matters is your mindset and your actions. Wealth is not only about money. It is about building a life where you follow your passions, help others, and live without regret. That is the meaning of true financial freedom. As you reach this moment in the story, remember your journey starts now. Start small. Stay steady. Learn from mistakes. Dream boldly. And never, ever give up. The only limit is the one you allow. The world is full of open doors waiting for you to walk through. Your next chapter begins with a single choice. Step forward with courage and belief. Your time is now.